Now this question comes from Lund, Sweden. Do nail product vapors rise or fall? My dust collector has a movable arm and I want to know where to position it so the filters can remove both vapors and dust and give the best effect. First, there are a few important things to understand. If indeed you have a dust collector, this device has a dust filter, and these filters are not effective for vapors. Dust collector filters have microscopically tiny holes that are more than large enough to allow air molecules to pass through easily, but small enough to block out the tiniest dust particles that your file can generate at least. Now it's important to know that any type of vapor molecule that you can think of, they're many hundreds of times smaller than even the tiniest dust particle coming off of your nail file. Therefore, hundreds of vapor molecules can pass side by side through a small hole that would block one of these tiny dust particles. In short, no dust filter will be effective against vapors since they would pass through easily. No, they don't even help a little, so don't fool yourself. In fact, they just provide a false sense of security when it comes to vapors at least. Now, there are special kinds of vapor filters that do collect vapors. Some sell flimsy carbon or activated charcoal filters, and they claim are effective against vapors, but usually these flimsy filters are not. In general, the thinner the vapor filter, the less effective it will be. If you can hold up the filter to a light bulb and see light coming through it, it's likely much too thin to be useful in a salon. A properly designed ventilation system for nail salons will have a dust filter to remove dust particles from the air, because if this isn't done, the dust can clog up the second filter behind it that's designed to absorb vapors. Now, this is a sign of a well-designed or a better designed system, and probably more effective. Look for two-stage filter systems that have both dust and vapor filters. Now, the best systems have these two-stage filters, one to block dust, the second to absorb vapors. Now notice I'm using the word adsorb with a D, which is very different from absorb with a B. What's the difference? Adsorption occurs when a vapor or a gas molecule is collected by adhering it to a surface so that it binds tightly and cannot escape back into the air. Whereas absorption occurs when liquids are soaked up by a solid, like a towel soaks up a liquid, or a carpet will absorb a spilt liquid. So, adsorption is what's important for vapor filters. This also explains why filters that are too thin are not effective. If the vapor passes through too quickly through the vapor filter, many vapor molecules will not be adsorbed at all, and they'll just come through the other side of the filter and back into the salon. The thicker the filter, the more likely the vapor molecule is going to be adsorbed. Now, I did want to address the main portion of this question. Vapors can sink or rise, just as dust particles can sink or rise. That's why a source capture system is the best type of ventilation system in my advice. They deal with both vapors and dust that rise and fall. They do this by capturing the vapors and dust at the source of their emission. The best systems have a movable arm that draws in the contaminated air right at the source, where the vapors and dust are being pulled from the air by suction down this arm and into the ventilation system. First, this air will pass through the dust filter, which removes 95 to 99% of the dust, depending on the type of filter used. The air then passes through a specially designed vapor filter, which absorbs vapor molecules, trapping them so they can't escape back in the salon. Source capture ventilation has a name that says it all. These systems capture vapor and dust right at the source of their emission, so the contaminants cannot escape into the salon. I love source capture ventilation systems because they keep your breathing zone cleaner than other types of ventilation systems, such as floor units or units on a wall. However, if the nail technician, as the nail technician who asked this question that I'm answering points out, The proper positioning of this air intake collector arm is really important to the success of these systems. These systems work best when the intake tube is positioned just inside the breathing zone. Everyone has a breathing zone. It's where all your breathing air comes from. Now, our breathing zone is about the size of a beach ball, and it's centered directly in front of your mouth. The closer the intake tube is to your breathing zone, the more effectively it will remove these contaminants before you can inhale them or before they can escape into the salon. A well-designed system will capture vapors and dust no matter if they rise or fall. Now, like any piece of equipment, source capture systems must be properly used and correctly maintained if you expect them to perform at their peak efficiency. Manufacturers of these devices will give you instructions for proper use, and they should be followed. And of course, any warnings should always be heeded.